time for reflection is over. It's time for action, and there's only one thing to be done. If it's going to be done, it must be tonight. Delay will make it impossible. I beg you, Socrates, be persuaded by me and do as I say.
Dear Crito, your passion is priceless, if it is properly directed. But if it is misplaced, then the greater it is, the greater the harm it can do. I am and always have been the kind of person who must be guided by reason, by the arguments that upon reflection seem best. I can't put aside the principles that I have already discovered just because of what has happened to me. I have long respected and still respect those principles, so unless we can quickly find better ones to replace them, I can't agree with you, not even if the power of the majority could inflict more imprisonments, confiscations, and deaths, frightening us with hobgoblins, like children. How can we best consider this question? Perhaps we should go back to your argument about majority opinion. Before I was condemned, we said that some opinions are to be followed and some are not to be followed. Were we right in saying that? Or has the argument that was once good now proved to be mere talk, simply a way of amusing ourselves? I want to consider this with your help, Crito. Under the present circumstances, is the argument different or not? Shall I accept it or not? I'm talking about the argument for the claim that some opinions should be respected and some should not. You, Crito, are not likely to be executed tomorrow, so you are somewhat disinterested and therefore not likely to be influenced by the immediate circumstances. So tell me whether I'm right in thinking that only some opinions ought to be valued and that others ought not be valued. Am I right in saying that?
You are right.
We should respect the good ones and not the bad ones.
Yes.
And the opinions of wise people are good, whereas the opinions of unwise people are bad.
Certainly.
What did we say about another matter? Is an athlete supposed to listen to the praise and blame of everyone, or only to that of the coach or the doctor?
No, not to everyone.
The athlete ought to fear the blame and welcome the praise of the coach, not of the crowd.
That's true.
And the athlete ought to live and train and eat and drink in the way prescribed by the person who understands such things, not according to the opinion of the majority.
Yes.
What will happen if the athlete ignores the opinions and approval of the coach and takes the advice of the many ignorant people who also have opinions? Will that be harmful?
Of course it will.
What sort of harm will come to the disobedient athlete? What aspect of that person will be affected?
Well, it will harm his body, which can be ruined by following bad advice.
Good. Crito, isn't this true of other things as well? I don't think we need to list them all, but in the case of the just and the unjust, the right and the wrong, the good and the bad, those values we are currently considering, ought we to follow the opinion of the majority or the opinion of the person who understands? Should we not fear and respect that person more than all the others put together? If we ignore that person, would we not injure and ruin the aspect of our being that is improved by justice and destroyed by injustice? Or is there no such aspect?
Certainly there is.
Consider an analogy. Let's say we follow the advice of people who don't understand such things and ruin our body, that aspect of our being that is improved by health and destroyed by disease. In that case, would life be worth living?
No.
We could not live if our body is destroyed.
Of course not.
Now, consider the aspect that is improved by justice and damaged by injustice. Would life be worth living if that, whatever we call it, is ruined? Is that aspect of our being inferior to our body?
It is not.
It is more valuable?
Much more valuable.
Then, my friend, we should not concern ourselves with what the majority says about us. We should pay attention to the person who understands justice and injustice, to the one who knows the truth about such matters. So, it was a mistake to say that we should worry about majority opinion when we are dealing with justice and goodness and rightness. Then let's apply this concept to the present case. In escaping from prison against the will of the Athenians, am I not doing something wrong, acting against those whom I ought least to wrong? Would this not be to violate a just agreement?
I can't answer your question, Socrates, because I don't understand it.
Look at it this way. Imagine that I'm about to slip out of here, or whatever you like to call it, and the laws and the Constitution appeared to interrogate me. Tell us, Socrates, they say. What do you think you're doing? Are you intentionally going to overturn us, the laws, and the state to the extent that you're able to do so? Do you think that a state can exist and not be destroyed if the decisions of law have no power but are set aside and overthrown by individuals? How will we answer such questions, Crito? Anyone, especially a clever rhetorician, would object to putting aside a law that says a sentence should be carried out. Perhaps we should reply by saying, "But the state has wronged me and handed down an unjust sentence. Suppose I say that."
That's exactly what you should say.
Was that our agreement with you, the laws would say? Or were you to abide by the sentence of the state? If I were to express surprise at what they say, the law would probably add, "Answer, Socrates, instead of widening your eyes. You're in the habit of asking and answering questions. Tell us what complaint you have to make against us that justifies you in attempting to destroy us and the state. First of all, didn't we bring you into the world? Through us, your father married your mother and conceived you. Do you have some complaint against those of us who regulate marriage?" I would reply that I have no such objection. Do you object to those of us who regulate the nurture and education of children, the system in which you grew up? Were not the laws right in commanding your father to train you in music and gymnastic? They were right, I would say. Well, since you were brought into the world and nurtured and educated by us, can you deny that you are our child and our servant, as your fathers were before you? And if this is true, you are not on an equal level with us. You have no right to do to us what we do to you. Would you have a right to hit or insult your father if you had been hit or insulted or suffered some other evil from him? You wouldn't say that, would you? If we think it is right to destroy you, do you think that you should destroy us and your country in return as far as you are able to do so? You claim to be interested in virtue. Are you justified in acting this way? Has a philosopher like you failed to discover that the state is higher and holier and to be valued more than mother or father or any other ancestor? Don't you realize that your country is to be more respected in the eyes of the gods and men of understanding? Isn't it to be soothed and treated reverently when angry, even more than a father, and if not persuaded, then obeyed? When we are punished by her, whether by imprisonment or flogging, we should endure in silence. And if she leads us into battle and we suffer wounds or death, we follow her rightly. We should not yield or retreat or break ranks. Whether in battle, in court, or any other place, we must either do what our country orders or change its view of what is just. If we may not do violence to our father and mother, much less should we do violence to our country. How shall we answer this, Crito? Do the laws speak the truth or not?
I think they do.